Hey, Archie, I'm looking for ways to have a very meaningful retirement.
Well, Rob, let me give you some advice. I'm Archie Hoxton.
And I'm Rob Hoxton.
And this is Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. Well, welcome back to the Last Paycheck podcast, brought to you by Hoxton Planning and Management. We're your hosts, CFP professionals Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today we're going to talk about making your retirement meaningful. I think it's one of the challenges when you go into retirement, if you don't think about how you're going to find meaning, because it's not necessarily going to happen automatically. Many of us find meaning in, our working life. You go to work, you add some sort of value to the world, and that gives you some meaning and purpose. Maybe it's raising children, but at retirement, a lot of that just kind of ends. And so it's important to find ways to create meaning in your life.
I'm constantly hearing stories about people who retire and sort of spend their time, watching a lot of cable news, which is never a healthy thing to do, and being more sedentary, getting into the cocktail sort of lifestyle in the evenings, and instead of it just being Friday and Saturday night, now it's every night of the week, and dying. Yeah, in fairly short order. I was working out this morning with a trainer, and he was telling me a story about a family friend who did that. They bought a nice little house along the coast, and he just sort of slid into retirement without anything productive to do, was enjoying himself, resting and everything, but he developed a lot of health problems, and boom, he was gone before he was 70. So I think it's, I think the idea of having something, you're retiring from something, but needing to have something to retire to is really super important. And yeah.
And just, that's a good point. Often if you didn't like the work you were doing very much, it's easy to just say, I'm not going to do that, and then just go into like a 30-year vacation. But
it's never 30 years
if you do that.
Yeah. So, but having a sense of purpose, and this is particularly true, and maybe it's more true of certain generations, but traditionally men have often a big part of their identity is what they do for a living. If you play golf with a bunch of guys you don't know, pretty quickly it's going to come up, hey, what do you do? Yeah. What did you do? If you go to a cocktail party and there's a group of guys off in the corner that don't know each other, at some point they're going to say, hey, what do you do? Mm-hmm. And what they're referring to is, how do you add value to the world? And that's through work. They may say I'm a dad or I'm a grandpa. I mean, I always say I'm a grandpa now. And I think that adds a lot of value, and it's very fulfilling. But I think as you consider retirement, as you transition into it and you are retired, I think you really need to be deliberate about this in much the same way you did with your career. You had goals, you had milestones. These are things that you need to have. And one of the big ones is giving.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of sort of happiness and fulfillment that you can get from giving. And, when you're working, you may be someone who already gives. And often, you give from your income. You have money coming in, you write a check, you set up an automatic, EFT from your bank or your credit card, and you don't really think about it. Well, that changes and your income changes. And so you have to kind of rethink how you're going to give. Maybe you give to the same places, or maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I've worked really hard. I've accumulated a lot. I've done my financial planning, and I realized I have more than I need.
Yeah.
And so you might look at kind of giving from what you already have. And there are lots of ways to do that. And it's important to do it in a way that, is, tax efficient, so that you can maximize the gift that's going to the charity, and you maximize future gifts by saving money on taxes. And so there's a handful of ways that you can do that.
And it needs to not be annoying. I can picture a scenario in which I retire someday and I come back to the office and I decide I'm going to give you some wisdom and not being very welcome, actually. So you can give your time, and you can give from your experience and your wisdom from a lifelong career in whatever it is you did.
Yeah. I mean, you have developed expertise in something over
Right.
the years. You know, maybe you don't need to get paid for that anymore. So maybe you say, I'm gonna use that I'm gonna donate that expertise to someone who needs it, a charity or someone, an individual who maybe couldn't afford it otherwise.
Right.
So that's sort of one of the more intangible ones. But there are some that are more concrete and specifically financial.
Let's talk about some of the ways that you can do well while doing good.
Yeah.
Right. So if you give financially and you do it smartly, you actually receive some benefit for it as well.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'd say the first one that comes to mind, which is right now probably the most common, is qualified charitable distributions.
Right. Once you're 70 and a half, you can do that, right?
Yep. You can do up to $100,000 a year, or maybe it's actually been adjusted a little bit for inflation, but you have to follow this set of rules. And so in order for it to be a qualified charitable distribution, it has to go directly from your IRA, specifically a pre-tax or traditional IRA, to the charity. It's got to go, usually it's a check that's made out to the charity. It goes from the institution that holds your account right to the charity. You don't deposit it first and then give it. And the benefit of that is that money that comes out of a traditional IRA is normally all taxed. The benefit is if it goes to the charity, it's not taxed. So at some point in your life, you're going to have required minimum distributions where you have to take money out of your IRA. You can donate that and avoid the big tax bill that comes with that withdrawal, and give to the charities and the causes that you really care about at the same time.
And with a higher standard deduction now, it may be the only way you actually can give to a charity and get some tax benefit from that.
Right.
Right. So
another one that is most people can benefit from this. If you have appreciated assets and that aren't in IRAs, you can donate those. And that could be all kinds of stuff. I mean, that could be a stock. It could be, art or jewelry or a collectible of some kind. I mean, it can really be
piece of real estate.
It's real estate.
Pretty much anything of value.
Yeah. And the benefit of this is if it's appreciated and you donate it, the charity isn't going to pay capital gains taxes. However, if you had opted to sell it and then donate the cash, you're going to pay the capital gains taxes and have less money to give to the charity. So, that can be a good way to
and if you do it the wrong way, in which you sell it and then give it, not only do you lose the ability to sort of give someone else the capital gain treatment, but it can also affect so many other things. It's like you do something in your financial life here and it has a ripple effect. It could impact the amount of tax that you pay on other income. It may impact the amount of premium you pay on your Medicare Part B and D. So, I mean, there are all kinds of things to keep in mind. So giving smartly is super important.
To that point, as far as giving, and this applies mostly to financial assets, but if you have appreciated stock and you don't want to pay the capital gains and kind of blow up your situation, you can donate that to a donor advised fund. And we've done episodes on this.
I've done it too myself.
Me as well.
And maybe you can talk about that cool strategy where you donate an appreciated asset and then you replace the value of that asset in your account.
So and this applies mostly if you are still working or you have an excess of retirement income from other sources to where you could make new contributions to a brokerage account. But let's say you have some shares of an S&P 500 exchange traded fund. You donate your oldest, most appreciated shares to a donor advised fund. And then you take the money that maybe you would have donated in cash and you buy that. And so what you're kind of doing is you're donating the appreciated stock, you're avoiding the capital gain, you're maximizing the gift to the charity, and then you're resetting your basis in that position.
You're getting a step up.
You're getting getting a step up by doing that.
That's fantastic. Another thing you can do is bunching, right?
Yeah,
so let's say you're trying to put yourself in a position where you itemize for your tax return instead of taking the standard deduction. If you have a chunk of assets that are appreciated, you can give those to a donor-advised fund, and you can do that through generally whoever your account custodian is. You can give it all in 1 year, take the tax deduction for the higher charitable contribution, and then you have the ability to actually distribute those funds to charities in the future. So let's say you give every year to your church, and you want to bunch the next 10 years worth of contributions in 1 year. You can do that. You can give the appreciated asset, 10 years worth of donations to your church, and then actually send it to the church 1/10 each year going forward.
Yeah. They still get the income that's predictable and consistent like you have been doing. Meanwhile, you avoid paying the capital gains on the potential future sale of those assets, and you get the big deduction in that year. So that's a great strategy. I think it's important, we've covered the sort of creative strategies for giving while you're living and most often while you're retired from assets you already have. There's also strategies that are more about creating a lasting legacy, or what's often called planned giving.
I love this because a lot of people feel like they don't feel financially secure enough to give an asset up when they may need it in the future. Maybe they're worried that maybe they'll need some long-term care.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have enough long-term care insurance. And so they're really uncomfortable giving an asset away completely while they're still living. Well, your favorite charities are going to need your support after you're gone.
Right.
For sure. So there's some pretty cool strategies that you can do that allows you to have a legacy long after you're gone in support of that charity or those charities.
Yeah. And we'll just name a few here. There are all kinds of options and strategies, but these are some of the big ones. So I would say the first one are a type of trust. There's it comes in 2 flavors, really 4 flavors actually, but it's a charitable remainder trust. And so we won't go into all the details. You have a charitable remainder trust and a charitable lead trust. Charitable remainder trust, you put some money into the trust, assets, whatever it is, and then you actually live on income from it, and then the balance of the principal goes to the charity when you pass away.
Whatever's remaining, the remainder.
The remainder. Now, this is an irrevocable trust, so when you put the money in, that's final. Now, you get to work with a lawyer to create the terms of the trust, so you get to kind of have some control up front, but then you create it's a completed gift. Otherwise, the tax benefits kind of go away. But so that's the first one. The other one, which is sort of the opposite, it's called the charitable lead trust. This is where you put the money in, the charity gets the income, and then your beneficiary gets the principal. So this might be your child. So that's great if you want to continue giving to the charity and get some money out of your estate, but you want your children to still benefit from it. This is a nice sort of combo. Either of these are great.
So if you're younger and you're listening to this and you know your parents want to give a chunk of money to a charity, this might be the best one to suggest to them.
Yeah.
If you want to still have an inheritance, try the charitable lead trust. That might be the best bet.
Another one, and this is more common with real assets like real estate, would be it's called a life estate. And this is where you are basically promising your home to a charity. It could also be another beneficiary. but you get to retain the right to use it and live in it and enjoy it for the rest of your life. So you're getting to leave this to a charity. They're benefiting from it once you've gone. And this would be like if you're, maybe you feel your children need your financial assets, but they don't have any interest in your home. And this is one way to donate it while you're living, but keep the right to use it. The last one I would say is pretty similar to the charitable remainder trust, is where you're putting assets. It's called a pooled income fund, usually managed by a charitable organization. They pay you income. They manage the investments. They pay you income, and then they keep the balance when you pass away. And this is one that, if you want something simple, hey, I want to take this money. I want to donate it to charity, but I still need the income that it generates. And I don't really care about the fine details. I don't need it to be really specific and custom like a trust.
This is a great way to do it. This and the charitable remainder trust, if you don't have heirs.
Yeah.
Like if you're a single person or a couple, you can set this up where the charity pays you a really healthy distribution rate and they get your assets when you pass. You don't really need the assets anyway. Either you're going to leave it to the charity or it gets distributed according to whatever the state law is in your state. So you can make that decision now so it goes where you want it to go, but you can maximize your income and lifestyle while you're living and everything goes really smoothly. I think it's a fantastic strategy.
Yeah, I agree. And this is all, again, this is all really about, finding meaning in retirement, making a contribution and adding value to the world through all the hard work and diligent saving you've done throughout your life. There's so many ways to do that. And
giving is so much fun. I mean, it's so fulfilling. If you do it and you feel like you're not putting yourself at risk, it can be one of the funnest things that you'll do. Very fulfilling.
Yeah.
And we should say, Archie, that if you all want our notes on this, some of these ideas, shoot us an email. It should be on the screen. It's lastpaycheck@hoxtonpm.com. We'd be happy to send it to you. No charge. Just we'll send it right over to you.
Yep.
Yeah,
and leave us a comment if you have thoughts or questions. Happy to hear what you all have to say, and hopefully maybe we'll even do an episode off of one of your questions. If you like the video, hit the like button. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends about it. And we'll hope to see you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.